and watch
You
again.
were arguing with Scientology.
No, not at all. No.
Was that on the subject of my views on Islam?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well,
but we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. All right. That's fine. Okay. Anyhow, let's shift topics here. Turretin Fan has been having an interesting conversation on his Facebook wall with some representatives of, well, this is one of my problems. If you cannot differentiate between what's called the Byzantine text platform and the quote unquote ecclesiastical text or the TR, then you got a problem. And now Turretin Fan in many ways is a nicer fellow than I am. And Turretin Fan in the past has expressed he's been much less excited about, dedicated to a critical text theory than, of course, I am. But he's found quite interesting the arguments that people are raising in defense of the Comma Johanneum. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, there is such a strong cohort of Comma Johannists in the Reformed pub that part of me, honestly, I don't even want to post in there anymore, because anything I say, no matter what topic, eventually the comm boxes will turn to that. It's just... And as I've said, I find the defense of the TR, the Textus Receptus, as the ecclesiastical text, or as the final form of the New Testament, whatever argument it is, I really find it to be extremely troubling, especially when it's done by Reformed men. And the reason for that is I wasn't raised in the Reformed tradition. Now, I've said many times, in fact, I do have it. Here's my father's systematic... It's always opposite. There you go. Systematic theology text from Moody Bible Institute. Christian Theology by P.B. Fitzwater. I sent this to Ace Bookbinding, and they totally restored it. They did such a tremendous job, but you can see the pages are... Wow, that looks weird. You can even see the other camera in that one. That's... Oh, you lifted it way up high. It was down... When did you do that?
This morning. Or actually yesterday morning. Anyway, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a really cool shot,
I don't know how we could do it, but...
At least I don't have shots of you with like half your face in the shot and the other half out, and big
you need to put on one of those things where you can make it swing. Swing back and forth, slide across.
Like over the football field. And, let's follow the action as we're going down the... Anyway. So, here's... there we go. See, Christian Theology, P.B. Fitzwater. This is what they used in the early 1950s at Moody Bible Institute, and Fitzwater was a Presbyterian. And so, I was never... Well, certainly the church that we went to here in Phoenix, again, was mixed. That was one of the things that eventually drove me out of that church, but not quickly, over years, was, man, one Sunday you'd get I remember this one sermon on Isaiah chapter 6. It's just
absolutely incredible. Holiness of God, and And then 2 weeks later, you'd have a really Arminian style sermon. And so there wasn't a lot of consistency there. But I was never raised with some kind of antipathy toward the term Calvinism or Reformed theology or anything like that. Just wasn't raised with that terminology at all. And so I embraced Reformed theology after a very strong period of really, reading multiple books and struggling with things and working through things and that period of time where you're going, man, I never even thought about this, and I've never even really considered whether I was consistent about this, consistent about that, and things like that. And of course, I was already involved in apologetics, and I started going, wow, this just explains every difficulty that I've been having in dealing with grace and faith and needing to have a meaningful biblical anthropology, because that was probably the one thing that I didn't have, was a really, and some of the early Mormon missionaries I had talked to had sort of identified that. It sort of pressed on that very issue, and I had thought about it, and this was all in the mid 1980s. And so I don't come to Reformed theology as one that just grew up with it. I think I am much more firmly convinced of it because I came to it, I was forced to it by the weight of Scripture and examination. Well, as a result, I figure if you call yourself Reformed, then the very same kind of dedication to consistency of argumentation, and I had to identify the traditions that stood in the way of my believing what the Bible said about God's sovereign grace. And so when I find folks in the Reformed tradition that then become dedicated to tradition rather than really sola scriptura, it just bugs me. And so some say, yeah, it makes you very uncharitable. Oh, okay. I think what it means is I hold you to a higher standard, and when you don't live up to that standard, I'm very disappointed. Anyway, this issue, Turretin fans having a conversation mainly with Colin Pearson, but also some others on his Facebook page. And it hasn't gotten too far yet. It's interesting to look at. I think a lot of people are lost as to why I'm talking about this, and I apologize for that. But I noticed, again, in the pub, various people